Donington Park for round 4 of the Intelligent Money British GT Championship, and another variation in the format. This weekend it is a 2-hour race, one mandatory pit stop which is likely to be taken just after the hour mark. In other words, it is a 2-hour sprint. It's going to be absolutely flat chat right from the word go. And around the 2.5-mile Grand Prix circuit at Donington Park, we've seen in the past that anything can happen even as early as the first corner. David Addison trackside. I'll be joined by Joe Osborne when we get to the race itself, but for the moment Joe is down on the grid, soaking up the atmosphere in the company of Bryn Lucas.
Yeah, soaking up the atmosphere with a splendid looking Joe Osborne. Look at that, what a great outfit. It's great to be here, isn't it? Donington Park always throws up quite a lot of excitement, particularly these 2-hour races. And fresh tarmac you were talking about, it's very tarmacy tarmac. Tell us about that.
Yeah, exactly. It may seem like quite an obvious thing, but makes up the most important part that the car generates its lap time. Resurfaced 3 months ago, it's still very new. You can actually see how black it is, and when you can get down, you can see the tyre is really sticking. You can feel it under your foot, and that's what the tyres are getting. That's why we're nearly 2 seconds faster than we were this time last year, just in the surface. We're also seeing less tyre degradation, so I think the guys are going to be able to push hard all the way through their stint.
Well, you were saying earlier on in warm-up, weren't you, that the track sort of, it comes to you and leaves you as well, like tyres do as well, and once it's been relayed, you have that 4-month window of decent surface to race on. So you're expecting to see a lot of grip and a lot of action.
Yeah, definitely. And while everyone is going faster, it's going to be interesting to see whose tyre goes off first, because that energy's got to go somewhere. The cars are going faster, it's generating more heat. The teams have had a big issue with tyre pressures, trying to keep them in their happy window.
Right,
so I think we've got like another external factor to factor in today. I'm super excited.
Throw another thing into the mix. I'll come back to you in just a second, but before we do, head back to David for, you know, kind of a bit of fill while I wait for a driver to arrive.
Bryn, thank you. It is easy to fill, I think, at British GT weekends nowadays. The teams had yesterday, of course, free practice and then the pre-qualifying and the qualifying session. This morning they've had the warm-up, but they've also had another couple of laps in a number of cases, because earlier on in the day, straight after warm-up, we had the GT Safari. You are not seeing things. There was a genuine London bus out on track, race cars alongside. They were all under controlled pace, limited to 100 kilometres an hour. There was a safety car there as well. The bus had gone through rigorous checks to make sure it complied with the BOP, the balance of passengers, and the people on board, cameras at the ready, were able to get an experience not only of Donington but also to get up close to GT cars. This is how it looked from the exit of Coppice, with GT3 and GT4 machinery all being controlled by the safety car and by the BRSCC's officials pouring their way through. But it's something just a little bit different that British GT has done, and well done to all the teams, because of course there are running costs incurred in that, and they embrace the concept fully. Let's just take a look at that grid then quickly before we go racing, because it's a rolling start. They won't stop on the grid. It's Sean Balfe to start the pole car. James Cottingham lines up alongside, ahead of Andrew Howard in the Aston Martin, and then the championship leader Darren Lung next. Now Sean Balfe gets 15 seconds of compensation time in the pits. Darren Lung and Dan Harper's car will get 20. The third row, Lucky Kera lining up alongside Mark Sanson. Ian Loggy and John Ferguson share row 4, and it's Morgan Tilbrook and Richard Neary on row 5. Mark Radcliffe on row 6, 10 seconds of compensation time. Alongside is Ian Campbell's Raceland McLaren. Then there's Mark Smith alongside Mike Price for Greystone GT. Alexander West with a 10-place grid drop for 4 behavioural warning points. Next alongside Kevin Say, ahead of Andre Borodin, and hopefully Chris Hart is there after a lengthy engine change. Into GT4, Josh Rowdage starts alongside Freddie Tomlinson. Then it's Jack Brown alongside Henry George, Ian Goff and Seb Hopkins on the third row of GT4, ahead of Kabi Jundu and Carl Cabers in the Century BMW. Then there is Will Moore, a winner this year, alongside Joe Wheeler. Michael Johnston has Matt Cowley alongside him. Then it's Ben Short and Ed McDermott on the penultimate row at the back of the grid. Zach Meekins' Porsche, question mark, and Ian Duggan's Ginetta. We are good to go racing then here at Donington. It is round 4 of the Intelligent Money British GT Championship. It is Lamborghini versus Mercedes AMG on the front row, and it is go as the lights change. And a very good start is made on the outside line by James Cottingham then as they go diving down towards Redgate Corner for the first time. Ian Loggy tries to get the silver Mercedes through a gap on the middle there, and he's just about gained ground. Cottingham goes wide, and he's not the only one to rattle over the curb. John Ferguson gets back on track after a curb hopping moment, and it's going to be Ginetta to the 4 by the look of it. Freddie Tomlinson leading leading GT4 as they plunge downhill, but a good start by Sean Balfe and Andrew Howard up into second place, but he's wide of the old hairpin, Joe.
Yeah, and Lucky Carer's got the momentum there out the old hairpin in that McLaren 720 that we spoke with you and Hanky on the grid. But look at Sean Balfe, he has had a dream start, probably already got a second over Andrew Howard, who did a good move to get that Aston Martin up to second place. Super clean, I didn't see one bit of contact, definitely in the GT3 field, so everyone survived the first half of a lap. Let's now see how this race settles in down low with a huge amount of oversteer, rear tyres still coming up to temperature, and you can see that's then hurt his speed onto the back straight. Richard Neary all over the back of him, and Richard Neary is someone that you do not want all over the back of you when your car is handling like that.
Lucky Carer is having a red hot go, isn't he, in fourth place, so very experienced driver, Lucky Carer, of Ferraris, of Porsches, of BMWs and other things. He seems to race something somewhere every weekend, but he's going very rapidly on this opening lap as the GT4 cars wriggle their way out of the S's then. So up towards the end of lap one, it is Sean Balfe leading the way. It's Andrew Howard second, as now Darren Lewing has to go defensive against Richard Neary, who tries the inside line. There's no Mercedes AMG sized gap there. That green Mercedes, one of the original cars, the other Mercedes AMGs are the Evo models, and that alone, that green car, copped an extra 15 kilos of extra weight under the balance of performance adjustments for this weekend. But he's not phasing Richard Neary, he is right there on the tail of Lewing. Yeah, and the BMW is very strong in this first part of the lap. First sector, as we dive down the crane, is easy flat. That BMW can stretch its legs, so Neary has now got to try and stay as close as he can. You can see him running a little wide there, and then in sector 3, that's when the Mercedes really gets the bit of a strength back on the BMW. So that ebb and flow we're going to see then, is that BMW going to get any quicker? Is it going to turn its tyres on? What have the team done? Have they want it to come in early, or do they want it to come in a bit later towards the end of this first hour of racing that these AMs will do? In GT4, Freddie Tomlinson led, Josh Rowledge led Jack Brown at the end of the opening lap. There is Freddie Tomlinson in his Ginetta, what else? And he's just starting to edge away ever so slightly, isn't he? Because Josh Rowledge now is having to go defensive against Jack Brown. So the Ginetta trying to escape further back, just to show you the variety. McLaren versus Ford Mustang versus Ginetta, but this is the leading quartet really in GT4. Tomlinson, Rowledge, Brown, and then in fourth spot there in number 17 McLaren, you've got Harry George. Yeah, we've got to remember there's only 1,000 splitting that Ginetta as we see the Drive Tech car down the inside of the Greystone Mercedes. Look like a clean drive. Can that green Mercedes get back? He's going to the outside. Alex West slightly out of position with that grid drop that he's got. He's going to be losing time here. He would have wanted to make more ground than this. While all the cars are still tight together at the start, you need to strike while the iron's hot to get that car probably back into the top 6 where his pace has been this weekend realistically. Now that Drive Tech Mercedes number 50, which he's fighting in the hands of Chris Hart, missed qualifying, missed the warm-up. They've had relatively little track time with this engine issue, so Chris Hart doing his level best here to haul that car up the order, but they've given away a lot of running time to everybody else around them. But Chris Hart is absolutely on it, isn't he? He's trying to come back at Alexander West in that Gulf liveried McLaren as they swoop now out of the old hairpin, nose to tail. This fight is a long way down, admittedly, for 16th place, but it's a fierce one. Yeah, definitely, and like I said, Alex needs to get his head down and get going as we see the GT4s flow through. Who looks strong? Like I said, in qualifying, there was only 1,000th between that leading Ginetta and the DTO McLaren in second place, and that's with 2 lots of drivers' time, so it literally could not be closer unless it was a draw. So we're going to see again where those cars have their strengths. The McLarens look really strong top speed-wise, but that Ginetta we know is the lightest car on the grid as John Ferguson running wide. Bit of tyre debris maybe stuck in that rear arch. Is it going to clear? Looks like the smoke's not too bad. We saw Rafael Marchielli, that is the front left, it's broken the steering arm. You can see the front left tyre suddenly turn hard left. If he doesn't realise that, this could be a bit of an incident coming in here. The car will not turn his left as well as it should do, and he may run wide. He may even struggle to get into the pit lane, but he needs to get into the pit lane. That car is ultimately done for the day. Oh, so early in the race as well. So John Ferguson dives into the pit lane. The number 4 Mercedes of James Cottingham had done the fastest lap. Lucky Carer is now the quickest man on the circuit in 4th place. The team goes to work to see what can be done. Now, are they thinking it's suspension? Are they thinking it's tyre? Well, yeah, I think it's the front left, and I think he's hit the tyre stack, or he's missed that. You can see Morgan Tilbrook nearly hit in the background. These curbs don't look so big on the camera, but he is running over them as he lands. I think that front left steering arm, the front wheel we're looking at, gives up the ghost. He's got opposite lock on a little bit, but you can see that front left doesn't look quite right. It's going quite high up into its own wheel arch, and I think ultimately it snaps something in that steering arm, and he's just not going to have any response from that front left wheel. John Ferguson, a cracked sump, we understand, for the Mercedes. You were suggesting it was day done, Joe. Well, very definitely, if it's a cracked sump, the car has already lost 2 laps. So even if it could be repaired and get back out there, the chance of a result are pretty much gone. So a costly mistake and more drama. That's Mike Price facing the wrong way coming out of the Fogarty S's. He's in the middle of the road and hopefully can get the car fired up. Yes, he can, but as he tries to find a way of turning the car around without getting it stuck in the gravel, keep your foot to the boards, Mike. Try and dig. The lock on a GT car is not great, but in fairness, well done, Mike Price. He has swung the car around, the former Porsche Cayman racer, back in the right direction, and therefore no need for the race to be interrupted as a big dive comes there. Look, Mark Radcliffe under attack from 42, Ian Campbell. There is 93, Kevin Say behind. The unofficial McLaren trophy raging on here.
Yeah, McLaren parts truck will be rubbing their hands in delight at this. There's potentially a lot of damage coming up. Campbell looks super racy. I think another McLaren might have actually turned around Mike Price in Alex West. We saw him scampering out a shot, and he's just boxed. So I'm putting 2 and 2 together, and I can't add it up, but I think it's going to be 4. As we're on board with Kevin Say, he's got a grandstand view. Looks like the option car went a little deep in there. There is Alex West. What have we got? Looks like the front left is maybe a bit lower. You can just see the splitter touching. So as he had a bit of damage as he's hit Mike Price there. It'd be interesting to try and work that out. There we go. Yeah, so his front right, the left as we looked at it, is just gone in the rear. It's a hard overtake there. It's not a big brake zone. So Alex is down the inside of that green Mercedes of Mike Price, but Mike Price is turned in on his normal line, and you can see it bouncing over the curbs. That slow-mo is brutal, isn't it?
Terrifying, isn't it?
If Ferguson cracked his sump going over that normally, then I'll be surprised if that Mercedes is okay. Alex West, it might just be a tyre, throw a new wheel at it, and it's good to go. But again, it's so hard to get back in the running from there.
Yeah, absolutely. He has rejoined Alexander West. The reason for the grid drop was the maximum of 4 behavioural warning points. That resets after the penalty, but let us hope that that incident doesn't incur another BWP for Alexander West. Confirmation, number 15, John Ferguson, Raffaele Marciello's Mercedes has been retired. So really sadly, we are denied the chance to watch Lello in action for what would have been his first Donington Park race. You're on board now with Kevin Say in the McLaren, the Sky Tempesta Racing entry. It is in 12th place as he plunges downhill.
Yeah, you can see it going all the way down. Big slide from Campbell. He's gone, go left, go left. Hope the car doesn't rotate back into you. We'll be fine on board here. Just got to take your time, get it back. Don't spin it on the grass. Ian Campbell, however, looks beached in that old hairpin gravel trap. I don't think he's going to get out of there. That is, for me, too close for comfort to use a live snatch vehicle, and that probably is going to go safety car. Who's that going to help? No one at the moment. Let's see if he can fire it up. The only chances you've got is to pull away so slowly. As soon as those rear wheels spin, you just go downwards, not forwards. So it just looked like he turned in. The rear was a little loose, obviously no contact, and it just came around. And so hard at the start of the race when the cars are full of fuel. The drivers maybe haven't had the car full of fuel since free practice yesterday morning. So really, really difficult for these guys to know exactly how the car feels, basically.
Alexander West and Mike Price's incident is under investigation after that contact as the leaders go through. That's Balfe and Howard, the top 2. Small gap. Cottingham third in the yellow Mercedes. Kehrer, Lung, small gap. Richard Neary being caught by Morgan Tilbrook. Big gap back to 8th and 9th there. Ian Logie ahead of Mark Smith and then Mark Radcliffe rounding out the top 10. So Jules Gounod, as he was saying on the grid, they haven't quite got the ultimate pace yesterday. And Ian Logie, despite what looked like a good start, hasn't really been able to make the progress as yet.
Yeah, and if the car's not perfect, it's not bang on in the window, now British GT is this competitive at an ultra-high international almost level spec of competition. You can't have anything wrong. If like I said, just not in the window. The start, the driver can make a difference. Ian Logie, we know is rapid, we know he's confident, but it's so difficult for him now to get any pace. And we know the sister car of Cottingham and also Johnny Adams up there, so it's not even a team thing. As we get the first move, Andrew Howard gets it down the inside, gets it stopped for the lead. I think Balfe was distracted by the first GT4 car they were going to catch at the Toro Verde Ginetta, and he just broke a little early, and Andrew Howard pounced, and Sean Balfe will be how dare he, but he has done it. He is brilliant there.
And there, another move coming. Darren Lung tries to get up the inside of Lucky Kehrer. Ahead of all of this is Alexander West. Now, Bryn tells us from the pit lane that it was a puncture, nothing more than that, and Alexander West is still just on the lead lap. So if there were to be a safety car, and he's staying ahead of the leading gaggle, which he is at the moment, that would help him to get onto the tail. Although the team manager of 88 is he's being summoned to race control. There's the new race leader, 97, Andrew Howard across the line. James Cottingham now tries to attack Sean Bell for second place then as they turn through Redgate, but as yet there's no suggestion of a safety car. So that's the top three, and Lucky Kera fourth has just been hooked the wrong side of the traffic because he's behind Kavi Jundu's Paddock Motorsport McLaren heading downhill.
As we see the other raceway, Ginetta, the sister car, the leading GT4 car in the pits. As soon as those skates of doom are in, you're going into the box, and that is at least a lap gone. You might as well turn it off and put a cover over it.
There goes the leader, Andrew Howard. Gap back, and it is 2.7 seconds to Sean Balfe, then James Cottingham is third. Through fourth, Lucky Kera. Fifth, Darren Lung. They're the two under investigation. Morgan Tilbrook sixth. That's the next wave. Seventh over the line, Loggy. Eighth behind him, Mark Radcliffe. Ninth, number 11, McLaren, Mark Smith. And 10th now is number 72, Lamborghini of Mark Sampson, that dives up the inside there and clashes with the GT4 leading Ginetta. He's done a tyre, and Mark Sampson is off the road.
Yeah, that smacked of desperation, unfortunately for me, from Mark Sampson. Sent it to the inside, done the tyre, maybe even done the rim in a way that's going to rub all the way. He's got to do a full lap, obviously, into turn one. Pit entry couldn't be further away from him. Is there any damage on that Ginetta? It looked like it hit him pretty much in the passenger door. You can see something hanging off the sill. It's probably just a bit of fiberglass. The exhaust does sit in that sill, though, on the Ginetta. The bonnet's slightly loose as well. A little bit of smoke rubbing. The team will be looking at these pictures that we're looking at ourselves to try and work out where to go. The problem with the damage on the right-hand side, the team struggled to see it from the pit wall. They can only see the left-hand side. They're going to have to make a call. The call will be stay out if the car feels okay, and we'll have to try and do something in the pit stop. But yeah, when you're overtaking the leaders in GT4, it needs slightly different consideration. Windscreen wiper was going there. I think that's probably Freddie looking for a button to maybe clear an alarm or something. Yeah. It's definitely not raining at the moment. He's got to settle back into his rhythm because that DTO McLaren is in the hunt.
And talking of alarms, the sister car that we saw in the pit lane, 55 of Ben Short, it was an alarm that brought it in. They were monitoring it. This is all from Bryn in the pit lane. It was a pressure warning, possibly oil. They didn't want to damage the engine, so they've brought the car in and it remains in its box. So one of the raceway Ginettas has gone. The sister car, with its damage, leads, but under attack from Josh Rowditch. Then you've got Jack Brown in third place as they come over the line. So the gap between the top two in GT4 now is just 0.3 of a second, and Mark Sansom is limping round to the pit lane with that puncture and the damage to the front left corner of that Lamborghini from Redgate a lap ago. So the GT3 cars getting themselves in trouble, but it's largely through contact and incidents, isn't it?
Yeah, so easily done. Again, you just don't want to lose any time, and you think there's a gap and you think the guy in front seen you as you dive down the inside of that slower GT4 car, but he might have just been fixated on his own race, concentrating on getting a good exit out of Redgate turn one. But I have to say, I think that Ginetta is really strongly built, isn't it? Because there's a fair old whack, which you can see in the evidence of Sansom. And normally when you hit the wheel and you haven't got too much lock on, you can get away with it, but that front left just disintegrated straight away. It's lost the dive plane on that front corner. The mechanics will always give the wheel a wobble as we run wide. You should be able to keep it pinned. Is the DTO car going to get a run? He will be on the outside. Tomlinson just needs to brake late, hold him out to dry, and then ask the question, do you want to go around the outside? Which the answer should always be no. And then he lives to fight another day. But does it look like the car's going away? Has it suffered a bit of damage, which is hurting performance? It's hard to say, but these three are looking as racy as they did 25 minutes ago at race start.
So Jack Brown to the outside of Josh Rowditch. Jack Brown in number 90. Mark Sanson has just rejoined, by the way, as you go back on board third in GT4. Jack Brown, ex-Ferrari racer before he came into British GT, has a go, does he, on the inside line? Thought about it, thought better of it. So it's still the Ginetta in the lead. It's been attacked by Lamborghinis. It's been on the grass. It's got bits hanging off it, but Freddie Tomlinson still leads as he comes across the line. Right there behind him, Josh Rowditch, and then Jack Brown lines up again for a look on the inside. That is number 80 in the pit lane, Joe Wheeler's Ginetta. So that one has got a problem, but 56, no matter what's been thrown at it, this bulletproof car still seems to lead the class, with Freddie Tomlinson doing a good job. Oh, now that shouldn't look like that. It's Chris Hart's Drive Tac Mercedes. A bonnet pin potentially is broken. Certainly the bonnet is up. He can't see where he's going. And this is what happened. One pin has gone, air gets under it, bang, and around he goes. That could have been a whole lot worse, but that would have been a really frightening moment.
Yeah, so I think he's probably had some rear end contact. He's crashed in the back of someone's rear, broken the pin. What can he see through? Potentially those bonnet scoops, but I think they're actually solid. There's a little bit in the middle there. I think it's just, as you said, broken the bonnet pin. It'd be interesting. I don't know why it spun when the bonnet went. I assumed he's jammed the brake on and it's rotated the car. I don't think it would have acted as like a parachute on the front end. As we see it change for the lead, got the GTO McLaren is now in front of the Ginetta. We haven't seen where, but it looks like he's lost a load of time. Is it potentially that Paddock GT3 car has been the grenade in the mix there and it's mixed it up? No damage on that Ginetta at least, so it's going to be interesting. Now they've swapped position, what's the Ginetta got to answer, or does that DTO McLaren just ultimately have the outright pace?
And not only is Sean Balfe, going back to the GT3 story, losing places, but he's on his final track limit warning. He's got his 4th track limit warning. After that, it's a penalty. Right, there's the move for the lead. Finally, Josh Rowledge, full send up the inside, going into Goddard's and goes through. Jack Brown comes out to have a go at Freddie Tomlinson as well. He's not cleared him yet. And actually, there's part of your answer, Joe. Rowledge hasn't gone scarpering into the distance. He's pulled a small gap, but not a massive one.
Yeah, really hasn't. And down to the inside, Brown gets 2nd place finally. What's he got pace-wise now? That DTO car, you can't even see it in shot as Alex West wants to get involved in the party, but
the safety car is deployed. The GT3 cars can't yet pit. Safety car on track. It's been scrambled pretty quickly, that.
GT4 cars will be able to pit this lap, so I expect the pit lane to be busy. We see the leader DTO there coming in. The Optimum car should follow suit as it comes around the last corner any second now. Just trying to spot which car we're missing. At the moment, I'm seeing car 3 is missing in sector 2, so we can see one of the corners in sector 2 there at Coppice. So I assume it's someone in the gravel and they're just having to call that safety car, but the pit lane, like I said, is going to be super busy as we see one of the Ginettas actually getting wheeled back in. That's the 80 car. The lead Ginetta just stopping on its marks there. All 3 of the top 3 GT4s stopping. They're obviously in the order the garages are. The cars will get the drivers out, close the door, put the fuel on, and then the fueling should take anywhere from 40 to 50 seconds. It'll be brimmed all the way up. You can see 2 pipes. One will be the fuel and one will be the breather. So the guy closest to us is the breather guy. The fuel is rushing in at an alarming rate of knots, but it feels like a long time. Same setup on the Ginetta. The car will then go up in the air and they'll change all 4 tyres. All the cars in GT4 have 5 wheel nuts. The GT3 will have a single one. So you'll see the guns working away, electric guns, trying to get it done as quickly as possible, and the new driver obviously installed. And then it's up to the car controller to find you a bit of space to get out into the fast lane of the pit lane, but not too early when you get a penalty for being under your minimum time. So DTO are the first in, they're the first to start that process. The Optimum guys getting to work. You can see that wheel gun that the Optimum mechanic's holding. It's got a really long shaft and it actually captures all 5 wheel nuts in that socket, and then the next gun is already loaded with 5 new nuts in it, so there's not nuts flying everywhere in the pit lane, and you can see he can just methodically work through all 5. The front one will come off next and obviously get a new tyre there. They've saved a brand new set, so they couldn't be in a better position. Charles Clark is going to get a new set of tyres to attack this last 59 minutes and 50 seconds of this race. That is the leading car of GT4, followed by DTO, followed by Optimum, followed by Paddock, followed by that Ginetta. So he's lost a couple of places as well from that. So yeah, the safety car was actually almost the fairest there. It's given the lead to the race lab car because of its less pit stop time, but then it's closed them all back up again. So it should be a fair fight among those top 5. But all of these GT4 cars are going to be able to catch back up now. When I quickly looked at the timing screen before the safety car caught everyone, it looked like we had 10 to 11 GT4 cars all on the same lap. So the safety car won't affect that element of it.
No, indeed. All the GT3 cars you can anticipate as a wave to come in. And remember that there are 15 extra seconds of compensation time to be served by number 78, Sean Balfe, giving way to Sandy Mitchell. 20 seconds for Darren Lung to give way to Dan Harper. 10 for Mark Radcliffe to give way to Rob Bell. So, Joe, on the one hand, yeah, it hurts because they're longer pit stops, but because you're behind the safety car, you're not going to lose that much.
Yeah, it's track position that you're losing, not time. So everyone pitting, apart from Campbell, the Greystone car, he's laps down, so he won't even inherit the lead. Everyone's coming in so slow. Look at that, 34 kilometres an hour following a GT4 car. The pit lane's going to be busy, but luckily the safety car was at a timing where at least the GT4's majority are done. Loosening the belts don't undo them. You can get them undone. You can drop the window net as soon as you stop. You'll see he's right your hand touch the start button on the steering wheel, that window net will undo, the door handle will be by his left knee, coming to a stop, engine turns off, put the belts up over the seat. Oh, he's got a magnet on the roll cage, very fancy. Chris Froggatt undoing it for him, getting everything out of the way. Seat will come with Kevin Sayes, that bit smaller than Froggatt. Door closed, they will start refueling. The good thing is those compensation times, the top 4 aren't affected, and it's only Lung in the top 8 that is affected. So we're going to have a pretty tight race anyway.
You can see now the mass exodus, so this is going to put into the lead of the race Johnny Adam, and it's been a slow stop in comparison for the Aston Martin look, because up into second place goes Ewan Hankey, up into third Jules Gounon, and down to fourth goes Ross Gunn.
Yeah, what's happening with the Enduro? McLaren just beached there in the middle, the lights going on and off. It's got a major electrical problem, big race in pit lane there. Paddock having to yield to that Sky Tempesta car. The Barwell car has lost a load of time. What are they doing? They're trying to get something back on the front left. That has been a big mix-up, hasn't it, across the board? But that Enduro McLaren only just getting going there. It's obviously had to do a big power cycle, and I only assume Marcus wasn't power cycling for long enough to let all the systems go, because now it's going absolutely fine. They're the biggest losers, and they only just made it out before the safety car. That would have been tight, whether the red light on pit exit should have gone. It's open for interpretation when it goes back to red. It's when the safety car is on the pit straight, but at which point that they were very lucky. They nearly just lost a whole lap.
Their 78 Lamborghini is going to be a rocket ship. And there's the DTO McLaren with a problem. Now, that's your GT4 leading car. It has slowed right down coming out of Hollywood and ground to a halt. So the car that led GT4 into the pit window, with Aston Miller now at the wheel of it, was down to second in the class after the pit stops, and it has ground to a halt at Hollywood. This is big drama under the safety car in GT4, and it's going to elongate the safety car period potentially to move it, unless it's an electrical drama, revs have just dropped too low and it can restart. So Johnny Adam leads the way. Great opening stint by James Cottingham. The car's in the lead. James did the fastest lap of the race as well. Let's hear from James Cottingham before we go back racing. He's with Bryn.
You know what, James, this place throws up quite a lot of exciting races. This one's had a fair bit, and you guys jumping up to the top position with Johnny behind the wheel.
Yeah, it's been a very grueling first half of the race for me. Sean had such a good start, and I thought I'd try and get him on around the outside, and he left me just enough room, but I was all over the green on the exit of turn 1, and it just sort of went a little bit backwards from there, but managed to get my head down, stay out of trouble, and make some moves and get back to second. And then towards the end, I could see that Howard was probably tiring a little bit, because Morgan and I were catching him at a rate of knots. But I understand they've had a bad pit stop, so yeah, it's a sprint race to the end, though. I mean, really exciting.
Go and get your head down, and hopefully we'll see you in a bit. Cheers, James.
Thank you very much.
So that is 97, Ross Gunn. Andrew Howard did a great opening stint in that car to get in the lead before that slow pit stop. Let's quickly rejoin Bryn.
Andrew, just quickly, with the pit stop, was there a problem there because you came out a bit later, or a bit further down the grid, shall we say, than we thought you were going to come out?
Yeah, don't let an old man play with nets. That's it. I got the piece of the net wrong, so it's my fault. But to be fair, I mean, they dropped the car on my foot then to make sure that I'd got my pennants, so totally my fault.
Go and practice putting those nets in, all right? Thanks very much, Andrew. Cheers.
Gee, thanks, hon.
Andrew Howard taking it all in his stride. Yeah, the netting that's there for safety purposes, and then having the car dropped on his foot, but he's still sort of smiling about it. Right, here we go, racing, everybody. It's been a long time coming. Safety car lights are out. We're going to have about 24 minutes, that's all. So this is the most intense 24 minutes of British GT perhaps we've ever had then, as the cars make their way up towards Goddard's. Accelerating away now is Johnny Adams. So it's going to be just these 24 racing minutes for all of these drivers. They've got to get everything back up to temperature. They have got to go racing. And who is going to be the first mover? Johnny Adam is in control. He leads then. He's just under half a second up on Ewan Hankey as they go diving down towards Redgate then. And a big send by Dan Harper to try to get up on the inside of Martin Plowman. Couldn't quite do it. Jules Gounon hanging on to that third place. And right up behind the BMW now, look, as well, is Marcus Clutton. Through goes Harper. Clutton tries to follow suit.
He had to have a little break on the dust, takes the bollard out. Plowman was within his right to get over there. Big slide from Plowman. So Dan Harper's got the move done. Clutton was on the front foot but couldn't quite get it done. mega restart from Johnny Adam. He did get the jump, but look at Ewan Hankey now, already on the back end of him.
And look at Jules Gounod dropping away slightly, and that means that Ross Gunn is on the attack. So Jules Gounod is not able at the moment to go with the McLaren then, as you see Johnny Adam lead, Ewan Hankey lead, Jules Gounod, Mercedes, McLaren, Mercedes, Aston Martin. That's the top four. Ross Gunn is fourth. And as the cars accelerate now then down towards the S's, Jules Gounod jinks one side and then the other, partly to try to fend off Gunn, partly to get more tyre temperature, and through the S's they come onto the Grand Prix loop then. The 2.5 mile Donington Grand Prix circuit in use this weekend. Johnny Adam hanging on to the race lead then as he comes diving down now to the Melbourne hairpin.
Yeah, it's really interesting to see where these cars are working their strengths. Clutter right on the rear end of Plowman there in the paddock car. Doesn't quite get the run. Harper flashing his headlights in the background. Gunn to the inside. Feints a move. Looked like Gounod locked the rear there just as he turned in. Saw the rear of the car really dart round on that silver Mercedes. Managed to get it back in. Rob Bell still there in that awkward mix, trying not to get involved, but has got the best seat in the house. They've all warmed their tyres up well. Harper down the inside of Froggatt. That was a good, clean move. He is the man on the move, isn't he? Out of everyone, you would say. Dan Harper, look at the acceleration of that BMW. That thing has got ponies under the bonnet, hasn't it? It has got so much power. As we go back to GT4, we've got the Greystone car there of Ollie Webb in front of our GT4 leader. The Optimum car, Charles Clark, looking down the inside pretty hard there. This is going to be a fight that is going to rage on. A little bit surprised that Middleton, the guy behind this battle in that Ginetta, isn't a little closer. Might have just made a small mistake. Let's see what happens. Mega run out the old hairpin. Can he go all the way around the outside? Is he going to be left a car width? There's a bit of a curb there. I would say at that point the move should be done. He's got the inside now into McLean's. He retakes the lead for that Optimum car. Big damage. Marcus Clausen into the last corner. You can see he's hit the solid concrete wall. It's going to be hard if that's not a safety car. Martin Plowman, rear right damage. They've obviously come together.
Exactly.
We saw Marcus looking a little bit frustrated. It might be as simple as it looks like they've rear-ended each other. So Plowman's on the brakes. This is into the previous corner. Plowman saying, if you want to go around the outside, go on, but I'm not going to turn. Marcus has got back down the inside. They're nibbling at each other. He's got a rear right puncher already, and then it just all comes together. But Clutton wouldn't have known, Plowman wouldn't have had a puncher, and it's really messy. But you see that concrete wall doesn't move. That is a big, big hit. I just hope it isn't a safety car. I think the car's in just about a safe enough spot, and that concrete wall didn't move much when it got hit doing 80, 90 kilometres an hour, so I don't think it's going to move again.
No, they tend not to move, concrete walls, and that's why the damage has all been done to the McLaren, as you say. It'll get looked at, I'm sure, but as you say, it was a puncture that caused the car to move across into the other McLaren rather than anything malicious, surely. So into the pit lane comes Martin Plowman. Lewis Plato, in the meantime, is still crawling all over the back of Stuart Middleton's Ginetta. To the outside line goes Lewis Plato. That opens the door for the McLaren, but can he get the job done in time before he gets to the yellow flag zone? I don't think he can.
No, exactly. He saw it and he backed out of it cleverly. He's obviously been there for a couple of laps, so he would have been trying to get the job done before it, but kind of conservatively pulled out of it. So Middleton kicking up the dust. He's given it everything he's got. Every time he'll be coming across the line, he'll be asking how long's left, and surprisingly it's about a minute 40 less each time he comes across. So it's been absolutely mega. Yeah, the 14 BMW, that purple one, sponsored by Ainsley Harriott, so the Harriott Chariot is super getting close to it as well. So I think this could be a 4-car battle within the next couple of laps.
So Darren Burke, number 17, is the one attacking the BMW there to the outside line. Number 7, McLaren of Tom Rawlings, as I say, is not part of this fight. It's a lap back, but Lewis Plato again tries to make his move. Darren Burke having taken over number 17 McLaren from Harry George, and he's right there in the fight to be third by the end of the GT4 contest, which is 12 minutes away. Stuart Middleton goes defensive, and to the outside line is Lewis Plato, comes on the inside line out of Coppice. This is Plato's chance then. He's got the power, he's got the grunt in a straight line, and he's ahead. Is he on the way down to the S's? Yes. Can he move across and defend? Yes, he can. Job done then, nicely done.
Yeah, carbon copy of what we saw before, but a little bit more. Middleton just went in a little too quick into Coppice, couldn't stop the car on the apex, which he had been doing really, really well to stop Plato on the run. Burke on the attack, Middleton locking the rears under braking. Now we've got the race leader in the mix as well, GT3, Johnny Adam catching him. He's got to have to stay behind those 3 GT4s. They're in the yellow flag. Luckily, Ewan Hankey is 1 GT4 behind him. You almost have to do a safety car restart now as they clear the incident. You can now overtake. It's gone back to green on that corner. So off you go again. That is an added stress and another dynamic that these guys are all having to contend with.
So over the timing line goes Johnny Adam, who is only 7/10 up on Ewan Hankey. It's still Jules Gounon third. Right there behind him, fourth, is Ross Gunn. Right up behind Ross is Dan Harper. So Ross Gunn trying to attack Gounon, but now he's going to have to go defensive. Dan Harper could well make his way through to 4th place on this lap if he's really, really brave. And he is really, really brave. And he makes a move, does he, going down through the trainer curves? Traffic in the way, had to think better of it. Ross Gunn, second generation racer, daddy, and used to be a real star in Mini Amelia racing. He keeps the BMW at bay and he's caught back up to Gounon.
Yeah, but look how much he had to live, which has given Harper the run. Gounon caught that Ginetta right at the apex of the old hairpin, so Gunn looked like he was on the front foot, but then the speed delta so much to another GT3 meant he had to lift, and this is why Harper is all over the back of him. Gets it down into 3rd gear. You can hear a late downshift, obviously wanting the punch out of it. Pulling 4th now. What's he got coming down the straight? 1 more GT4. That's been kind to Gounon. Gunn has to make the lunge. Harper feels like he's got to follow their teammates, sister cars. That's lost him a little bit of time, but Plato has lost even more. Is that going to let Middleton down, but catch him back up?
So the traffic playing a part for just about everybody now. Lewis Plato's cleared. Stuart Middleton is a long way behind now. You've got also Chris Froggatt under attack from Sandy Mitchell, who's got himself up into 7th, but that's largely because of those 2 McLarens coming to grief rather than him being able to overtake. A nervous James Cottingham looks on. He could be, with Johnny Adam, our first double winner of the year. They won that opening race at Alton Park, remember, in the wet, and a second win for James in his GT3 career. An 18th British GT win for Johnny Adam. Looks more likely now, doesn't it? We're into the last 10 minutes, a second and a half. Johnny Adam has cleared the traffic and still one of Britain's best ever GT racers, clear of Ewan Hankey up front, and Jules Gounon illustrating the troubles that 2C's Mercedes has. Can't live with the top 2. He closed it in the traffic. He's hanging on to a podium place for now, but just does not have the pace to stay with the top 2, one of which comes out of the same team. We're on the last lap now. Right, so there is the battle between Stuart Middleton and Chris Solkell. Michael Broadhurst in the One Motorsport Mercedes, this borrowed car after co-driver Ed McDermott rolled their original race car on Thursday in testing. They've borrowed one for the weekend, had to quickly build it into a Pucker GT4 car, if you like, for the British GT regulations, but it's gone well in the hands, in this stint, certainly of Michael Broadhurst. GT4 looks like it's going to be Charles Clark and Jack Brown to score a second win of the year, the championship leaders. Stuart Middleton has driven very well in the Ginetta to try and hang on to as good a place as he can. But what about Johnny Adam versus Ewan Hankey? The gap was down again going on in this last lap. And there's the Ginetta way up the curb. Now Chris Solkell is able to take advantage, or is he? No, because Michael Broadhurst gets up alongside the BMW. He can't affect that battle, except there's contact, which might affect things. And drama for Middleton, look, because the front left corner is broken, suspension is broken, he's in the gravel on the very last lap there. Johnny Adam goes through a new incident zone. He's going to hang on for the race win. Drama right to the very end. So James Cottingham is about to be a very happy James Cottingham. He watches his car arrive at the last corner. Second win in the championship for him, an 18th British GT win for Johnny Adam. Round 4 of the Intelligent Money British GT Championship won by Johnny Adam and James Cottingham at Donington Park. Second, Ewan Hankey and Lucky Carer. Third, Ian Logie and Jules Gounon from Ross Gunn and Andrew Howard's Aston. And then 5th, Dan Harper and Darren Lung. And Joe Osborne, there was drama right to the end.
All the way, yeah. Phil for Middleton there and the Ginetta. I mean, that's all 4 Ginettas now DNF'd. They've had a hard race. Too much curb through the chicane, and it's just ripped that suspension off. Mikey Broadhurst was in there giving it to Salkoud. Here we see the leader flying through the chicane, Charles Clark. He's also got the GT4 lap record, 2.7, and we see the R Racing car parked up there. This is like a war zone, not a racetrack at the moment with the amount of attrition we've seen today. Jack Brown in the garage there, all those guys will be happy. The Optimum team have really got on top of that Ginetta and got it running so sweet. But yeah, lap record by 2.7 seconds. It's absolutely phenomenal what performance we're getting out of these modern GT4 cars as he comes across the line, and they are having an absolute mega season. quite calm there, Jack Brown. Like, doesn't look like he really cares, does it? I think he's obviously already started on the beer, and he's in the second phase of the party.
Well, it is a win for the second time for Jack Brown and Charles Clark. Second across the line, the winning Pro-Am car of Ian Goff and Tom Wrigley. And Stuart Middleton walks back to the Ginetta. But very, very unfair in a way that on the very last lap, that should befall the car after everything that was thrown at it. We said it was a strong car. Well, finally, there was that straw that broke the camel's proverbial back, and it was enough to put it in the gravel after a really hard race. So Stuart Middleton puts on his helmet so the car can be pulled out of the gravel and towed back to the pit lane. Time for breath and a look at the result. Round 4 of the Intelligent Money British GT Championship is a triumph for James Cottingham and Johnny Adam. They are the winners by just 0.8 of a second. Ewan Hankey and Lucky Carer for his best ever result in British GT second, and the podium rounded out by perhaps surprised Ian Logie and Jules Gounon. Next, GT4, Charles Clark and Jack Brown, the winners, ahead of Ian Goff and Tom Wrigley. Lewis Plato and Carl Cavers coming home third in class, but those are the men of the hour. Bryn, they've done it again. Win number 2 of the season.
Yeah, they've done it again, and with some style, I think it's fair to say. So 2 wins in British GT for you now. James entering this season, you didn't have any. Johnny's just racked up his 18th win in British GT as well, which is absolutely incredible.
Yeah, I'm over the moon. It's been one of those weekends where we just worked towards getting the pace out of the car, and qualifying for me went really well, and for Johnny it was, it was great. And we started the race where we needed to start front row of the grid. I said at the beginning of the season, I want to try and start every race from the front row. So first lap wasn't quite to plan, but I gave it everything I could, and super pleased with the way it went at the pit stop and everything. 2Cs did an incredible job. They just got us out in front, and Johnny did exactly what he's supposed to do. Just showed that he is Johnny Adam.
The only thing I'd say though, Johnny, is that Ewan started to press you at the end. While there was a big fight going on behind you, Ewan started to close the gap up to about 9/10 of a second at one point. Were you fully aware of that? Were you allowing that to happen?
I was aware that he was catching in places. I would say they looked like they were a bit stronger under braking with the weight differences in the cars, but as James mentioned, the team have done such a great job. We've worked so hard to get the setup where it needed to be. The pit stop was super clean, and James's stint was superb. So the championship's coming alive now. We're bagging points, second of the year. Great feeling to do it early on with the team and James, and roll on the next round.
And only one off now, being the winningest driver in British GT as well. You started your 100th race just a short while ago, so just over 100 now. You've won 18. That's a pretty good return for anyone's book, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, you need a bit of luck on your side, but you need the package to work. And I feel this year the package is really working. We're working hard behind the scenes, both our driving and the team with all setup and all the little details, and it's coming together really well. Really enjoying it.
Fantastic stuff. Well done, gents. Well done, well done. Let's go to the winners then of GT4. I can see Jack Brown standing there right now. Well, let's grab these winners. Let's start with yourself then, in the car to begin. It was a decent first stint. It seems to be a fairly easy victory for you, I suppose, if that's ever such a thing.
Yeah, I mean, victory is a victory. I think we did very well. I got held up a lot by that Ginetta, which we managed to get past in the end. It was making it very difficult to get past. But yeah, overall, it's a great result, really. We didn't expect to win here, so it's a very, very good result. Thank you.
Carl Cavers and Lewis Plato stand. Now Ian Goff and Tom Wrigley are joined by Jack Brown and Charles Clark, the overall top 3 within GT4. James Cottingham and Johnny Adam, winners at Donington Park. Ewan Hankey and Lucky Carer second. Ian Logie and Jules Gounon third. And now the celebrations underway. Well, next stop is Snetterton. For now, though, from Bryn Lucas, Joe Osborne and David Addison, goodbye from Donington.